Good morning, my dear students. This is Sujit sir, and I welcome all of you to my class once again. In today's class, we will read the final section of the story, The Best Christmas Present in the World. In the previous part of the story, we have seen that the narrator had read the content of the letter. The letter, which was actually written by Mr. Jim Macpherson to his dearest wife Connie. Now in this part of the story, we will see what the narrator does next after reading the letter. Now apart from all these things, there is of course one more thing which we should not forget. And that is, we have not yet understood the significance of the title, The Best Christmas Present in the World. Because we have not yet seen anyone to have given any kind of Christmas present to anyone. But of course, it should not be so. There must be a clear connection between the title of the story and the subject matter of it. Otherwise, there will be no justification of the title. So, we may expect to find something in this final part of the story. Therefore, let us move ahead to find out what that Christmas present was. I folded the letter again and slipped it carefully back into its envelope. The narrator folded the letter after reading the content of it and thereafter slipped it, means put it smoothly inside that envelope wherefrom he had taken it out. I kept awake all night. The narrator could not sleep. The content of the letter in fact made him restless and he kept awake the whole night. By morning, I knew what I had to do. The narrator knew what he would do the next morning. I drove into Bridport, just a few miles away. So the narrator, as I have told you, knew what he would do just the next morning. So when he woke up the next morning, he took his car and drove to Bridport, which was not far from there. It was a few miles away. Now we have heard this name Bridport earlier. It was written on the envelope. That means the narrator is now heading towards the address where he would deliver the letter, whom the letter belonged to. I asked a boy walking his dog where Copper Beaches was. Now the narrator found a boy there on the street. He was walking with his dog and the narrator asked him where Copper Beaches was, because the narrator had to reach that place. House number 12 turned out to be nothing but a burned out shell, the roof gaping, the windows boarded up. Now the boy whom the narrator asked about the location of Copper Beaches must have helped the narrator, and very easily the narrator came to where he had to come. But when he reached there, at house number 12, he found that it was nothing but a place destroyed by fire. So burned out shell means a place destroyed by fire. The roof gaping. The narrator also found that there were cracks on the roof, and those cracks also must have been caused by the fire. The windows boarded up. So the windows were certainly damaged, and those windows were covered with wooden boards. I knocked at the house next door. So it was very natural that there would be nobody inside. So the narrator knocked at the house next and asked if anyone knew the whereabouts of Mrs. Macpherson. Whereabouts means the address or approximately where the location is. So when the narrator went there and found the house having been burnt, completely destroyed by fire, he went to the next door, the next house, to know about where the owner of the house was. And it was none but Mrs. Macpherson. Oh yes, said the old man in his sleepers. He knew her very well. So when the narrator knocked at the door of the next house, an old man came out. He was in his sleepers. Now, what are sleepers? A type of sandal that we wear at home. So the old man came out and informed the narrator that he knew Mrs. Macpherson very well. A lovely old lady, he told me, a bit muddle-headed, but at her age, she was entitled to be, wasn't she? Now the man who came out of his house informed the narrator that he knew Mrs. Macpherson very well, and he described Mrs. Macpherson to be a very lovely old lady. But she had turned muddle-headed. Muddle-headed means confused in one's thinking or being puzzled. Or you must have seen, students, some people in their old age often remain absent-minded. So such was the condition of Mrs. Macpherson as described by the old man in the next house. The old man also told the narrator that it was quite probable to be something like this at such an age. 101 years old. She had been in the house when it caught fire. No one really knew how the fire had started, but it could well have been candles. Now the old man in the next house also informed the narrator that Mrs. G. Macpherson was some 101 years old. So you can well imagine, students, that Mrs. Macpherson was very, very old, over 100 years, when the narrator went to meet with her. The old man also informed the narrator that Mrs. Macpherson was in her house when it was set in fire or when it caught fire. No one really knew the cause of the fire, how the fire started, but people guess that the fire might have been caused by candles. She used candles rather than electricity because she always thought electricity was too expensive. Now, one more information that the old man in the next house gave the narrator. And what is that? Mrs. Macpherson was in the habit of using candles, and she most of the times did not turn on electric lights because the lady always believed that electricity was too expensive. Now, one more fact comes out from here, that because Mrs. Macpherson was living all alone, she could not be extravagant. She had to be economic, and therefore she might have developed the habit of using candles rather than electricity. The fireman had got her out just in time. She was in a nursing home now. He told me, Burlington House on the Dorchester Road on the other side of town. So the old man also told the narrator that the fireman reached the place just in time. Otherwise, Mrs. Macpherson might have lost her life if the fireman had not reached in time. So the fireman reached in time and got her out. And at that time, Mrs. Macpherson was in a nursing home. The name of the nursing home, as the old man told the narrator, it was Burlington House, located on the Dorchester Road on the other side of the town. I found Burlington House nursing home easily enough. So from there, the narrator drove to Burlington House nursing home, and he did not face any trouble in finding the place out. There were paper chains up in the hallway, and a lighted Christmas tree stood in the corner with a lopsided angel on top. Now, when the narrator reached the Burlington House nursing home, what did he find? The narrator found that the nursing home was beautifully decorated. What for? Because the day was again a Christmas day. Now, the way to the hall was all decorated with paper chains. You must have seen when we celebrate some festivals, we also decorate the places with paper chains. So the nursing home or the way to the hall of the nursing home was all decorated with paper chains. And at one corner there was a lighted Christmas tree. So on Christmas Day, we also have seen that a lighted Christmas tree is placed. So there in the nursing home, A similar lighted Christmas tree was placed in a corner, and on the top of the Christmas tree there was a model of angel which was lopsided. Lopsided means leaning to one side or bending to one side, means the angel on the top of the Christmas tree was not straight enough. I said I was a friend come to visit Mrs. Macpherson to bring her a Christmas present. So when the narrator reached there, he told that he had come to meet with Mrs. Macpherson and he had brought a Christmas present also for her. I could see through into the dining room. Dining room, the room in the house where food is served. So I could see through the dining room where everyone was wearing a paper hat and singing. So everyone there in the nursing home was very joyous. They were celebrating the Christmas. The matron had a hat on too and seemed happy enough to see me. Now matron is a woman who supervises women and children. So there was of course a matron who was in the charge of everything. So the matron was also wearing a paper hat and she was also singing. So the environment was very cheerful. She even offered me a mince pie. Now mince pie is a kind of food. It is a sweet pie of English origin and pie is a kind of baked dish. She walked me along the corridor. Now corridor is a long passage in a building. So the matron was walking with me, the narrator was walking with the matron and they were walking along the corridor of the nursing home. Mrs. Macpherson is not with the others, she told me. She is rather confused today. So we thought it best if she had a good rest. So the matron told the narrator that Mrs. Macpherson was not with the other patients. Why so? The matron told the narrator the reason: she is rather confused today. So we thought it best if she had a good rest. So the matron observed that Mrs. Macpherson was a bit confused, appeared very puzzled on that day. So they suggested Mrs. Macpherson to have rest. She has no family, you know, no one visits. The matron of the nursing home also added that Mrs. Macpherson had no family and nobody came to visit her. The matron finally said, "So I am sure she will be only too pleased to see you." The matron said to the narrator, "When Mrs. Macpherson will come to know that someone has come to meet with her, she will be very, very happy." She took me into a conservatory with wicker chairs and potted plants all around and left me. So at last the matron took me to where Mrs. Macpherson actually was. Mrs. Macpherson was in a conservatory. Now conservatory is a kind of room having glasses on all sides. It is in fact a room where one can get some mental peace. As the matron told earlier, that Mrs. Macpherson since the morning was not so well mentally. Therefore, she was shifted to this conservatory. And wicker chairs, wicker in fact, there is a kind of chair which is made up of twigs or branches, not the wooden chair which we normally see. Potted plants, there were plants all around in the pots. And there the matron left me and went away. The old lady was sitting in a wheelchair. Now wheelchair, as we all know, a chair fitted with wheels used by a person who is unable to walk. So the narrator found Mrs. Old Macpherson sitting in a wheelchair. Her hands folded in her lap. She kept her hand on her lap. She had silver white hair pinned into a wispy bun. Now here we find the appearance of Mrs. G. Macpherson. How she looked. Now her hair was all white and it was pinned into a wispy bun. Pinned here means tied up with a pin or fastened with pin, and wispy means fine and feathery. Bun is a kind of hairstyle in which the hair is drawn back into a tight coil at the back of the head. So Mrs. Macpherson pinned her white wispy hair and coiled it into a bun. She was gazing out at the garden. Gazing means looking fixedly without blinking your eyes. If you look at something without blinking your eyes, that is known as gazing. So the narrator saw that Mrs. Macpherson was looking fixedly at the garden. The narrator said, "Hello, hello," I said. She turned and looked up at me vacantly. Now, when the narrator said hello to Mrs. G. Macpherson, she turned back and looked at the narrator without having any expression, as if she was unable to recognize who the person was, and at the same time trying hard to recognize who the person was. Again the narrator said, "Happy Christmas, Connie," I went on. The narrator continued. Again the narrator said, "Happy Christmas, Connie." So the narrator greeted Mrs. G. Macpherson saying, "Happy Christmas. I found this. I think it's yours." And then the narrator gave her the letter and told her that he had found it and had come to give that to her. That was the moment her eyes lit up with recognition and her face became suffused with a sudden glow of happiness. So at that moment, when the narrator was giving the letter to Mrs. G. Macpherson, her eyes turned bright, as if she had identified the person who had come to her. Her face became suffused. She turned very happy. There was a glow in her face, and the glow came suddenly when the narrator gave her the letter. I explained about the desk, about how I had found it, but I don't think she was listening. So the narrator also informed the old lady, that is Mrs. G. Macpherson, how he got the letter. But Mrs. G. Macpherson did not appear to be listening to what the narrator was telling her. For a while, she said nothing. So for a while, Mrs. G. Macpherson remained silent but stroked the letter tenderly with her fingertips. Stroking means rubbing something gently in one direction. So when Mrs. G. Macpherson got the letter from the narrator, she started rubbing it gently with her fingers. Suddenly she reached out and took my hand. Her eyes were filled with tears. "You told me you would come home by Christmas, dearest," she said. "And here you are, the best Christmas present in the world. Come closer, Jim dear, sit down." Now we come to know what the best Christmas present is referred to here. So after some time, suddenly Mrs. G. Macpherson stretched her hand and held it. Her eyes were then filled with tears. She was shedding tears. And she told the narrator in a complaining tone or filled with emotion, "You told me you would come home by Christmas, dearest. Now you think of the content of the letter, where Mr. Jim Macpherson, the officer in the British Army, had promised his wife that he would come back home the next year, but he did not come back. And since then, Mrs. G. Macpherson had been taking care of the letter and always lived in a hope that someday her husband would come back from the battlefield. And she said, "This is the best Christmas present you have given to me. This is the best Christmas present in the world that I have got." And Mrs. G. Macpherson wanted the narrator to sit down beside her. I sat down beside her and she kissed my cheek. The narrator therefore sat beside her, and thereafter Mrs. G. Macpherson kissed the cheek of the narrator. "I read your letter so often, Jim, every day." Mrs. G. Macpherson then said to the narrator that she used to read the letter almost every day. "I wanted to hear your voice in my head. It always made me feel you were with me, and now you are." So Mrs. G. Macpherson always hoped, always wanted her husband, Mr. G. Macpherson, to sit with her so that she could hear his voice closely. She also said whenever she read his letters, it appeared as if he was sitting with her. And finally, you have come. So, the old lady, Mrs. G. Macpherson, believed that really her husband had come back from the battlefield. But we all know it was not he, but the narrator of the story. Now you are back, you can read it to me yourself. Now, Mrs. G. Macpherson wanted the narrator to read the letter for her. Actually, the old lady, Mrs. G. Macpherson, was considering the narrator to be her husband. Would you do that for me, Jim dear? So look here, Jim dear, it means it is very clear from this that the lady is considering the narrator to be her husband and she is thinking as if he has come back from the battlefield. I just want to hear your voice again. So, Mrs. Jim Macpherson expresses her desire to hear the voice of her husband. I would love that so much. So, she always wanted to hear his voice as soon as possible. In fact, she had been waiting for listening to his voice all her life. And then perhaps we will have some tea. So Mrs. Jim Macpherson is also planning to have some tea after the letter is read. I have made you a nice Christmas cake, marzipan, all around. Mrs. G. Macpherson also told the narrator that she had made the Christmas cake, marzipan, which her husband, Mr. G. Macpherson, always preferred. I know how much you love marzipan. Now, every wife, we all know, knows the likes and dislikes of her husband. So Mrs. G. Macpherson similarly knew what her husband's likes and dislikes were. She knew that her husband, Mr. G. Macpherson, liked marzipan so much, and therefore she said that she had already prepared a nice marzipan cake for him. Now here we come to the end of the story. I hope all of you have understood. Thank you so much.